Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Black excellence, black beauty, and black pride. Black power from all diasporas coincide. Progressive truth and regression eventually collide. May the beauty of the people no longer be set aside. May the black queen's grace continually mesmerize the millions who couldn't see it when looking into her eyes. And the black man's plight no longer be the disguise. Oppression, emasculation, they wanna castricize him. Take him away from the black queen, put him inside prison for slave labor, he institutionalized. Wondering on the outside, is she willing to ride? Is she willing to ride? Is she willing to fight for the love, even despite the fact that he doing time? Love that conquers all will never fade with time. If she don't choose the love that appreciates every life, his flame might get dim and he may eventually.
And welcome to the Urban Impact Show. I am, you know what? I'm the favorite host today.
All right.
Let me stop playing. I'm your host, Rob Johnson.
I'm your favorite host, Shekinah.
Yeah, we are back. We are back. We're living in a time where black men are being asked to step up, do more, do better for the community. But also today is Father's Day. Father's Day, where we honor the fathers of our community, those who have stepped into a child's life, those who have fathered and raised their children, those who have stepped in to be mentors, those who have stepped in to be guides, to be helps, those who are continuously doing it during this time. And so today's show is about black fathers raising royalty, whether it be their daughters or their sons, as we continue to get through this world together. Shekinah?
Yes, and as you may know, I'm not a father. And I'm no expert at fatherhood at all. But I have a father, and I'm surrounded by a group of great men who I call friend, who are great fathers to, I don't know what that means, who are great fathers to their children, but also fathers to additional folks. Can you hear me okay, Rob? Mm-hmm. And also fathers to additional folks, and I think the role of a father is really important. You are really freaking me out looking at these chords, throwing off my whole little intro. The role of a father is really important, and I think that is something to be celebrated. So today we are going to do just that. We are going to be back with three pioneers in our community that are doing great work within their own families that's reflective in the community as well. And we're going to tell you who those three people are in just 30 seconds.
Yes, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll intro the three guests that we have. One in the studio, two online. Let's go. All right, y'all. I believe that was probably really 30 seconds that time. I believe that was probably really 30 seconds that time. So, Shekinah, can you tell us a little bit about who we have on the show today?
Yes, because I'm your host with a notebook and a pen. I can tell you about who is going to be on the show today. So, clearly, you are watching the Urban Impact Show, and we are talking about fatherhood, as today is Father's Day, and we are celebrating the men in our lives that are doing some great work as fathers within our community. So our guest in studio is Mr. John Hawkins Sr. He is a husband, a father, chief of the 5th Judicial District. He has been there for 17 years, and he was in the military for 30 years, right?
Thank you for your service.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. So he is joining us. In addition to online, we have Mr. Rashard Duncan, who is a husband and a father, also an independent wealth specialist. He is a father of 5, styling and profiling with his lovely red microphone. All up in the mix. We see that.
Father of 5.
Yes, father of 5. Proud father of 5.
Amen.
And then Mr. Words Taylor, who is a husband, a father. We discussed this before the show started, y'all. And Robert said he was not going to attempt. And here he goes, and all in the middle of what I'm trying to say. A husband, a father, a brand launch strategist, a believer, all around dope human beings. And Words and Rashard are 2 of the 3 members of the Male's Perspective. You can find information about their podcast on Instagram at The Male's Perspective, and that's also available on podcast platforms as well. So, Rashard, words. Mr. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. First of all, huge shout out to all of y'all black fathers doing big things. Also, community people in this space, especially with the death of our good brother George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Rashard and what was the young man's name in Atlanta? It was
sadly
our good brother in Atlanta as well. So shout out to you all. Thank you all for being here. Let's jump in with the first question. Let's start with Mr. Hawkins, and then let's go to Rashard and words. So let's start it out there. What was your example of fatherhood? We're talking about fatherhood today. So we're going to throw that out. First question, what was your example of fatherhood? Mr. Hawkins, we're going to toss it to you first with this roundtable conversation.
Thank you for having me. Hey, as far as that's kind of a tough question for me. My dad was killed when I was 5, so didn't have an opportunity to grow up with him, and then my mom remarried, and she ended up in an abusive relationship. So my examples of fatherhood actually came from, if you can believe it or not, were James Evans and Cliff Huxtable. They became my positive, father figures. But the guys that actually became father figures, but they not in a positive way, were those guys who were doing all the things that I didn't want for my life.
Right.
Growing up without a dad in the home, there was a lot of things that I didn't want. One of the things I didn't want to do is that I didn't want to go to prison. Didn't want to go to prison, didn't want to sell drugs. I wanted to do positive things. I had guys in the neighborhood who were doing some things, and so what I said to myself was that I wanted to be everything that they weren't.
Right.
So I began the process of, going to school every day, rain, snow, or shine, it didn't matter. I ran track and cross country. And then after I got done with high school, I decided to go to the military. That was something that my father had done. I felt like it was a way to honor him.
Yeah.
So all the guys who were doing the stuff that I didn't want to do actually became, role models for me in the sense that I didn't want to do that. So everything that they were doing, I was doing the opposite.
Right.
The opposite. And then my wife actually gets on me. She says that my number one role model was James Evans. Because I tended to be kind of hard on my kids.
Yeah.
I had high expectations for them. Regardless of what it was that they were dealing with, I felt like there was a way for them to overcome everything.
Right.
I was born and raised in St. Louis, and then after the military, my wife and I lived in Jefferson City, Missouri. I went to Lincoln University. We left Lincoln, and we went to Chicago. Chicago was great when we were in our 20s and we didn't have kids. But then once we started to have kids, it was like, we have to do something different. And then the opportunity came for us to move to Des Moines, which was great for us as far as raising kids and being a family. And it also gave our kids a place where they could just be kids and not have to worry about some of the stresses that my wife had to face on the south side of Chicago.
Right.
And good old Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah,
Des Moines.
Yeah. Rashard and words. What about y'all?
Well, I'll say, first of all, let me just say I'm definitely glad to be here. Appreciate you, Rob and Shekinah, and Brother Hawkins. It's always good to see you, man. I haven't got a chance to connect with you in a while, man, but I've got a chance to work alongside of you when I was working actively with youth in the community, and you've always been about the people. You've always been about the young people and serving and having the best interest at heart. So to hear your story, that actually lets me know that you're in your purpose right now. Like this is something that this goes deep for you, because I didn't even know that. So definitely, man, appreciate all your hard work and everything that you sacrificed. For me, I've had the privilege of having my father in the household. My dad has always been there since day one. Since I had my first thought, my dad has been there. My mother and father were married for actually about 32 years, something like that, 33 years. And then they separated, and then they each found a different partner, which at the end of the day, I just wanted them to be happy. But I've had the privilege of actually growing up with my father. He's been there every step of the way, elementary school, middle school, high school, coming to my games, supporting me, teaching me the ropes. My father taught me. automatically, like my wife sees now, I'm a huge saver. I don't like to spend money. I'm on the frugal side. I got that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Rashard Duncan, aka Tricky Duncan, what they used to call me. But anyway, my dad is a huge saver. Like, yeah, like he don't like to spend money, so he definitely passed that down to me. But I think that's a good thing. But I also have that privilege of being raised at a time where I had a lot of other fathers in my community. I was raised at a time where the next door neighbor, my parents gave the neighbors permission. You see my kid out of line, go on get him. And I couldn't even go nowhere in the block without being reprimanded or getting in trouble because they all talked. So I got a chance to have that privilege from my parents, and my father extended that type of grace into other households. So I always had to be, on the up and up, But again, I've had that privilege. I've seen my father reading books about finances. I see my father reading the Bible. I see my father leading his family. We were always going to church, starting off at Macedonia. Then we went to True Bible. Then my mom led us to Cornerstone, and my father and we all went there. And so I have definitely had that privilege of having that example. And so that has been my experience, which has definitely helped to shape me now into the father and the parent that I am today.
That's good stuff.
Words.
Yeah, no doubt. And just to kind of echo what Words was saying, what Rashard was saying, I definitely appreciate you all having us on the show and getting this work right here. So appreciate what you all are doing. So as far as for me, like the first 7 years, I was born and raised in Chicago. The first 7 years of my life, I actually stayed with my mother, and then, some things happened where I started living with my father. And, I was able to see, which is probably why I'm an entrepreneur now, is I didn't ever see him work a job. So he wasn't working a 9-to-5 job. He had always been about creating his own income and just making a way and being a provider. Like, so one of his main principles was, making sure that you always take care of home first.
Right.
Making sure that you're providing, making sure that you're paid, your bills are paid, making sure you have a plan. So all of those things that, I do now come from that foundation. Even in college, my wife would tell you, like, if my rent was $600 and my check was $600, then I'm paying my rent in full. I didn't pay on my rent. I'm gonna pay my full rent, and that's because principles from my father when he say take care of home first. Even now, more so, like when I say I'm a launch strategist, I love the idea of planning out a launch for a product and things like that. That comes from him saying, man doesn't plan to fail, he just fails to plan. So every time you do something, you make sure you have a plan. You know what's your next move. So even when I wanted to leave for home to go to college, it wasn't just like all right, cool, go ahead and leave. It was like, all right, what's the plan? Give me step 1, give me step 2. How are you getting there? How are you paying for it? What are you gonna major in? So I had to have all of these things prior to now being able to leave. Again, so those are the type of principles, and his whole thing was so there it's shifted now. In 2020, we don't really dig into our boys like this, but my pops was a man's man, so he's always, don't let people try you. You stand up for yourself.
Amen.
If you got it, if you have to put hands on somebody, then that's just what happens, right?
My daddy told me if I had to put hands on somebody, I got to do it. I'm just playing. He didn't say that.
Mr. Hawkins will probably disagree. From his
we do not endorse that
here. Exactly. So he was all about like defending yourself, speaking up for yourself, and if, like I said, if you have to put hands on someone, then like, so if I got into a fight at school, the first thing, or after school, first thing he gonna say is like, did this need to happen? What happened? Okay, so he had hit you first. Okay, then, so we done with the conversation. Okay, let's move on. So those are some of the principles that I had when I was being raised by my pops.
See, and those are my friends. I'm so proud to call y'all friends. You too, Mr. Hawkins, even though we just met like an hour ago.
Right.
I feel like we are going to be really good, cool. And your wife, too. Respect the union. Hey, girl. So our next question, what are some of the challenges or fears or advice that was passed down to you that would be helpful for you as a father? Like something that you really hold on to, maybe like one thing. Mr. Hawkins, we'll start with you.
Kind of goes back to what Word said just a few minutes ago, taking care of home first. My mom ended up raising 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls. And, we had some struggles. I mean, some real struggles. Those nights going to sleep, hungry. I don't go to sleep hungry to this day.
Oh, that's right.
If that means I have to eat a sandwich before I go to sleep so I can avoid waking up in the morning hungry, then that's what I do. Just making sure that that home is taken care of. I take care of my wife. My wife and I have been married for 30 years. We've been married.
All right.
It'll be 31 years next month.
All right.
Yeah, August. I'm sorry.
We won't tell her.
She's like, it'll be 31 years in August. And,
right.
My thing is to take care of home first.
Right.
And that means in every sense of the word, where the kids are concerned. If they need to be disciplined, then we take care of discipline right then. If they need to be loved on, which is something that honestly my wife had to teach me because I didn't have that, growing up. My mother wasn't a touchy-feely person. And not having my dad, my wife is the one that actually taught me how to nurture, be nurturing, where my kids are concerned. So where taking care of home was concerned, every sense of the word, it's about taking care of home. Taking care of my wife, taking care of my kids, making sure we got a roof over our heads. Right. Growing up, we had times where we didn't have gas. They turned the gas off.
Right.
I don't know I don't know how you guys feel about taking cold baths. But it's kind of hard. When you just a little bit of water in the tub and you throw it up on yourself to warm it up. So when it rolls off, it's a little bit warmer. But those were things that I hated growing up.
Right.
I hated being hungry. Hated not having clothes and having the kids at school talk about me real bad. Back in the day, I had a curl. And
he's bald headed for those.
Rob used to have a curl too, y'all.
I had a curl.
I still got one.
And we really couldn't afford to have that curl. I really couldn't afford it. And for those of you who had curls, or you've seen people who had those curls and couldn't take care of them, one of the things that would happen is that your hair would turn red, right? And so my hair turned.
Like Malcolm X.
Yeah, it was bad. My hair turned red, and then it started to fall out in the back, right? And the kids talked about me so bad. They talked about me so bad, and I just remember what it felt like not to have. And so where my kids are concerned, they may not have gotten everything that they wanted when they wanted it,
right?
But they had everything they needed. They had everything that they ever needed, and sometimes most of the stuff that they wanted, they got. They may not have gotten it when they wanted it, right? As soon as they wanted it, but eventually they got it. So, just taking care of home and making sure my wife and my kids have what they need. I'm a provider.
Yeah. And taking care of home first. That's key.
Taking care of home first. Yeah, definitely.
Rashard, words, fears, challenges, advice? Go ahead, words.
I would definitely. Hello?
That was Rashard talking.
Oh, that was Rashard.
Was you going, word?
Yeah. So, yeah, because you went before me last time, so I'll just go ahead and take this one. Yo, if y'all ever watch our podcast, Shar is a mic hogger. He would be trying to. I'm like, yo, Shar, can we?
Respectful on the Urban Impact Show, okay? But I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead, Word. You go ahead and talk, Mike.
He's like, so not only does he hog the mic, but he'll steal your point when he see what you're doing. He'll steal that joint and then he'll start building on it. You're like, oh, bro, okay. Wow. That's what we on. So, but anyway,
fears, challenges, and advice.
I think like some other principles. My pops was, again, he was a hard parent. Like, I ain't gonna lie, he was a hard parent. But I just sent him a message. This is probably like 2 or 3 months ago, and I was just like, yo, I am now these lessons that you were giving that I despised and that I fussed about or complained about. They're coming into, I'm using them now. I'm utilizing these lessons now, just because I felt like, man, he was such a hard parent. But things like, I always felt like in my childhood, he had these unrealistic expectations. It's like, why? How do you expect these things to happen? But because he had those unrealistic expectations, he got a lot done. So here it is, where this is a man that did not graduate from high school, has never set foot on a college campus, but yet I'm telling you, every day he would tell me like, yo, you got to do this because we got to get you to college. You're going to go to college. And you know, I started asking the question, well, how are we going to do that? Yo, we're going to figure it out. You're going to go though. You're going to college and you will graduate.
I know that's
first
right.
we got to get you to high school. So just the fact that it's very unrealistic to think like, man, you don't even have a high school diploma, and yet you're about to now teach your son how to not only get through high school and provide those resources and tools, but now you're talking about getting through college and be able to graduate and be able to provide those resources and tools. And then the next thing he always used to say was, I have to pour into you because you're going to take, you know, the legacy to a different level. You're going to break chains and you're going to be a millionaire and all of these things. And so everything there was hard parts, but there were a lot of, I would say, a lot of positively spoken things over my life from my pops.
Amen.
Always talking about the future. Always talking about you're gonna be great. You're gonna do this. You're gonna shift this. You're gonna change this. And like, so when I grow up, as I'm going, like those are the things in my head. So I don't think normal. I don't have realistic expectation. Everything now has to be unrealistic. So when I even talk to my wife and I'm telling her, yo, we're gonna have you out of your job in the next year, I don't know how we're gonna do that. I'm planning for it. And now we got to replace my income and your income, and we're gonna do it through this business. That's where that comes from, because my father said at 12 and 13, you're going to shift cultures. You're gonna break change. You're gonna stop poverty in our family. You're gonna start doing it. So it was already ingrained into me, so I have to do those things.
Right.
This is not something that I just luck up on and I just luckily just walk into. Like, this was what I was bred for. So these are principles that were always a part of my life, of like, just be a leader, stand out. You know, you don't always have to walk with the crowd, and if you're gonna do it, be the best at it. And these are the same things I tell my daughter.
Right.
She knows if she hear me say, baby, it will be hard, and she knows to finish it, but I can do it. It will be hard, but I can do it. That's all you got to understand. Anything that you do is going to be hard, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. Know that you can do it, and you can not only do it, but you can thrive at it. That's the key. And so I would say those are a few principles, other principles as well.
Rashard?
Yes, sir. No, I would say there's a couple things my father passed down to me. Number one was, he gave me this, you know, my dad was one of those type of individuals that he liked to act like he was broke, but he always had money. And so, and then he hit me, I'm like, Dad, and I always ask my dad, how much money, like, what do you got? Like, how much money you got? It was just always this secret. Look, just hold on, son. Just hold that down a little bit, right? And I say that same thing. My son's like, Dad, how many millions you got? So just hold that down. But he taught me how to save. Like, my dad was very big. He pushed this principle in me early in the game about storing and saving your money up. And I would say a lot of how I'm able to do things now financially is watching him and him modeling that. In fact, I remember when I was in high school, you know, I was that kid, and he was always about, look, go out there and get money. Like, I was that kid. I was in seventh grade, you know, rolling around in the rich neighborhoods, if you will, selling peanut brittle, like out.
You frozen.
I don't even remember my line. Knock at the door, hit them off. They sell and I was the kid that would finish. My crate would be empty before everybody else. And my dad was like, "No, how was it? How'd you do?" Working at Anderson Erickson, spraying down trucks in like 8th grade when they didn't even know you can even do that. So I've always had this ability. Hey. My dad was like, listen, you want your first car, save up your money, I'm going to match whatever you say. We're going to go get you a whip. I'm like, all right, cool. So he didn't realize, like, So I was working like 3 jobs while I was in high school. I was at the McHale House with Ray Lewis and them, which I ended up messing up their books because every check for an entire, you can ask Ray Lewis this, for 16 months, I never cashed 1 check. And I remember when Andy Bells, they was like, Rashard, what's going on? You got you ain't cashed 1 check, because I was storing all them checks under the bed. Right? Because I was in 9th grade and I had $5,600 saved up in 9th grade. And so when my dad was like, Dad, let's go to the car lot. We go to Tom. I'll pull out $5,600. His mouth fell open. I'm like, yeah, that's a little over 10. That's 11 grand.
Right.
This is what I want. Let's go. So he instilled that principle of really saving and being smart with your money. And he was also really good. He validated me a lot. Like a lot of, like, because I think outside the box quite a bit. So even, you know, my dad would always encourage, like every crazy idea that I would have with him as well. He'd be like, you know what, son, I think you can get that done. You can knock it out. And he gave me a leash. He wasn't really a micromanager. He just kind of gave me this leash to be able to do my thing. And if I kind of, you know, fell into a difficult time, he always let me know you can come back and I'll help you out if you need to. But I never really needed to, because he gave me that leash and gave me that constructive feedback in between. So a lot of these kind of ideas I would have, you know, like words a lot of people meet me, they call me Tommy off of Martin. Like, what do you have a job?
What do you do out here, bro? What do you do?
I'm always everywhere. People are like, what do you actually? And so a lot of that stuff is because I think outside the box now. And my father, every time I would come in with different things, like, you know what, son, you can do that. You can go ahead and knock that out. I think you should go ahead and do that. I think you should go ahead and do that. And even if he wasn't sure, he would still say that because he wanted me to learn from the experience. So those are things that he passed down to me that's shaping me to be the person I am today.
I think,
you know what, Shar, your pops help you be a producer, not a consumer, bro.
that is really cool to hear about, like how the fathers have planted these seeds. Rashard's father talking about basically financial freedom at a young age, teaching him how to hold on to funds, and Word's father planting seeds about seeing through the impossible, like what is impossible, we're going to make this happen, and setting those expectations high. And even Mr. Hawkins' father figures about taking care of home first. I think that's really important, and it shows through like the career paths that all of you have chosen, the way that you parent currently, your sons and your daughters, and people that may not even, you may be filling a father role that, you know, they don't have your DNA, but I think that really shows. We want to take a 30-second break and come back and talk a little bit more about what it looks like to be a black father in 2020, and what are some impacts that you're seeing, and how is that playing out in your role as a father. So you're watching the Urban Impact Show, and we will be back in 30 seconds.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Urban Impact Show. I am one of your hosts, Rob Johnson.
I'm your favorite host, Shekinah.
Well, that's always funny when she does that. So we're talking to black fathers today. We're talking to Mr. Rashard Duncan, Mr. Words Taylor, and Mr. John Hawkins Sr. Yeah, boy.
Put some respect on his name.
Put some respect on it. Chief, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, look, these black men have done some amazing things in their careers. And during the break, Mr. Hawkins, before we get to the question of being black in America and how that has impacted your fatherhood for all three of you all today, before we get there, talk a little bit about what you were saying during the break.
You know what I was saying was that you know, I appreciate what Words and Rashard have had to say about the legacy that their fathers have passed down to them. I didn't have that. You know, a lot of the things that you're saying that your fathers passed down to you, by the grace of God, I had to figure them out on my own. And what ended up happening, what's happening even now, is that I'm passing those same principles down to my kids, not necessarily knowing where I'm getting this stuff, but I knew that it had to be done. So a conversation that I have with my kids on an ongoing basis is that, you know, when things get hard for them, I always tell them, I say, you can figure this out. It's not going to be easy, but you can figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, then let's come back, let's sit down and we talk. And if you have that time where you are struggling, and so you're out there, like I got two sons and two daughters, and my youngest son is just, you know, he struggles sometimes. but he knows that when the time comes, he can always come home.
Right.
You know, and like I said before, that's those are things that I had to learn the hard way, not having that father figure in the house.
Right.
So being black in America, how has that impacted your fatherhood?
Well, like before we jump into that, I wanted to quickly say, I know sometimes Father's Day can be a tough holiday for some people.
True.
That their fathers are not involved. And I want to say that this show is a welcome spot for those individuals as well, me being one of them.
Me too.
But I think that it you can learn from things that weren't there, like Mr. Hawkins was talking about, and we as a community are coming together to fill needs in several different spaces. And so please know that if you feel like that you are one of those folks where you're like, I ain't got no pops, or he ain't really doing what he needs to do, the Urban Impact Show family is here with you, and we're going to address that a little later in the show, so don't quit on us. Listen to the wisdom of Mr. Hawkins' words and Rashard, and we can jump into the next question. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no. Let's jump right into it. So, Mr. Hawkins, starting with you, being black in America, how has that impacted your fatherhood and all of the stuff you was just talking about, what you're passing down to your kids?
Well, you know, I think the biggest impact that it's had is that I have, in some ways, some unrealistic fears or concerns about the challenges that my kids face. You know, my two daughters both were able to go to college. My oldest son went, and you know, he did a couple of years at UNI, and then he decided, you know, right now this isn't what I want to do, and so he decided I'm gonna travel.
Mm-hmm.
He and a couple of friends put together this plan, and they decided to go to Australia, and he was gone for about just over a year, and had the opportunity to go to like 10 or 11 different countries, you know, just to see some things.
Yeah.
But then my youngest son was here, and you know, he was in school for a minute, decided that wasn't his thing, and had to figure things out. You know, so here we are. You know, we're watching both of them kind of take different paths, but trying to get to the same destination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, me being a college graduate, you know, and sometimes I feel like, you know, just trying to get my kids to understand, listen, you need to do this, but at the same time, knowing that if they focus and they set their minds on what they're doing, then they can do anything that they want to do. So just dealing with with some of the stuff that we're dealing with as far as a community and the nation right now, as far as the conflicts with the police department and you know, some of our legislators.
Who you telling?
You know, just law enforcement in general. You know, there's some challenges. You know, and then working in the field adds some additional challenges. And so one of the things that I've decided to do was you know, to give back. About 13 years ago, I started a program called Boys to Men Youth Programs,
Mm-hmm.
where I work with 5th grade boys, teaching them basic life skills, being a mentor, you know, teaching them how to be leaders, teaching them leadership skills and whatnot, because they're facing some of the same challenges. And
right.
what I try to do is to get them, put positive role models in front of them, so that they understand that they're not the only ones that are facing some of the challenges that they face, that I too had to deal with some of the things that they're dealing with,
Right.
and they can always come to me to talk.
And that Boys to Men program
Right, that
is
was
super
good.
key. Like what you were talking about earlier about not having that foresight because there was no one to tell you those things. Now you can be that,
Yeah.
what you didn't have prior. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
And that's one of the reasons why I started it. And you know, some people have you know, reached out to me. They wanted me to go into the middle schools or into the high schools and do some intervention type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, intervention starts out with prevention. You know, so I think prevention is an intervention. It's just where you start. You know,
Yeah.
so I figure if you get to them before they get into any trouble and they end up in my system, and you know, my people have to deal with them, then why not deal with them on the front end, keeping them out of the system, and in that way, you can possibly turn some things around.
Man, shout out to you. The chief is in the building. Rashard, let's go to you. Being black in America.
And hit me with the question one more time. I want to make sure I heard the question correct.
Yeah, so we're talking about being black in America. How has that impacted your abilities of fatherhood, or what you're doing in fatherhood?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's one of those type of deals where I constantly have to teach my kids, like, you got to do I always felt like being a black man, I gotta do extra, right? I gotta talk. I gotta change up how I talk if I'm in this particular area with these people. I gotta change up when I'm with these people because, I feel like we're in a time right now where cultural competency is an issue. So there's a lot of people that don't necessarily understand us. So I was sharing with Words and Paran once, I feel like I have to disarm some white people or different people that are not black. I got to disarm them and let them know, like, hey, I'm friendly, I'm cool, like I come in peace. Because there's times where I'm judged, times where I'm stereotyped, and so I have to teach my kids that same thing. Like I don't want them to be insecure with their color, because my kids, they don't really see that stuff right now. Like, they know they have natural hair, and they know when they go to school, there's kids, they're like, why do all the kids, they just want to touch on my hair? They just, and I know that some of these kids are going to make fun of you. I know some of them might think it's cool, and so I constantly have to kind of rebuild their self-esteem. I kind of got to always let them know ahead of time kind of what you're dealing with. This is how you move. This is how you talk, because we live in this time where, social acceptance is everything, especially with a kid. They just want to be accepted, but I don't want them to compromise who they are also to be accepted. And so it's always that fine line for me of, really teaching my kids, number one, be confident who you are. I don't want you compromising yourself for anybody, especially for some claps, because they clap for clowns. They clap for clowns at circuses too. So we're not gonna go ahead and make you have to.
I know that's right.
And do all these type of things. And so that's how it shaped me, and even having a son. My son was in a situation. I had to let him know. I said, son, listen, because of who you are, there's a system that is against you. And I remember my son got in a situation, and with a female, and I had to have him to have a paper trail. I had said, you got to press charges, son. Like, you have to, because if you don't, because if the tables were turned, and you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. And I gave him some examples of people of color that had similar situations that were in a lot of trouble, and they were not treated fairly. So a lot of that stuff, I'm always in protection mode, basically, always 100%. So that's how it's for me. But again, I try to teach my kids to still be free in their identity and not to compromise themselves. And there's always that fine line, because I know they want to be accepted at the same time.
Yeah, Words.
Yeah, no, that's real. I would say, I have this poem called Black Boy Hunters.
Yes, you do.
And the reason why I created the poem was for a question like this. Like, as a black man and parenthood, it's like we have to have two types of curriculum. There's one curriculum where, we got to teach you math and English and all of these things, but then we also have to teach you a whole nother curriculum of how to survive in a world where there are black boy hunters, or like what Rashard was saying, where you're a female that has natural hair and your hair doesn't look like everybody else. We went through the transition of my daughter not liking the black dolls and her liking the white dolls more because their hair was straighter. And we walked in on her one time where she was washing out the black girl's hair, and she was trying to make it straight. Just things like that. So now we have to teach a whole nother curriculum, just because we're black, and just because I want my kids to live. So there's a part in the poem where I say, like, my prayers ain't even the same. And I'm not praying like, God, please allow them to have a good life and find a wife. I'm praying like, God, please don't let them take my boy away. Right. See, as a black man, this world, my prayers even got to be different. I gotta pray that my son doesn't get killed by people that are supposed to be protecting him. And then I also have to teach him how to interact with those people that are supposed to be protecting him as well. And same with my daughter also. So I think that has impacted me, especially right now. That's impacted me in a way where sometimes there's a level of anxiety that raises, and it almost, because that's the next line in the poem, it's like, yo, I want to coddle him, but I don't have time to be soft. So I'm praying like, God, please don't let me take the boy away. Because there could be a point where my fears can now impact what I allow to happen. What life, like I can start taking life away now because of my fears or my anxiety, or because of me trying to overprotect and all those. So now we have to manage all of those thoughts, right? Every time we have to start managing these thoughts that are coming now, and now it's making intentional decisions to let my kids live, to not live in fear. Like, this is every day.
That's good.
I'm not a fearful person. I wasn't taught to be a fearful person either. However, when you have your own kids and you're like, man, you don't even care about, okay, you just gonna, like, you just kneeled on my man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. What makes my child different? Now that's what makes those little thoughts come up. It's like, okay, I'm not fearful, but however, I just seen that you have no regard for this man's life. What makes my son any different? So now every decision, okay, you want to go to this friend's house?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I need to know their mom for 6 months before we can go over there, or their dad. Like,
that's how Sister Juanita was. No shame. She needed a contract.
You need a contract. All of those things, right? So I think for me, it's more. I have to be more intentional. My wife and I have to be more intentional to guard our feelings and not allow our feelings to get in the way of their childhood and their freedom and their experiences. That's the hard part,
right?
Because we know so much, we can get in the way and start saying, "Oh no, don't do that because this could happen."
Right?
Don't do that because it could happen. When you know what, they need to experience some things.
That's true.
So that's a big.
Let me say this real quick too, and because our history is not being taught to our kids, that's another impact. And so I have to be very intentional. I can't rely on the schools that they're going to for them to be taught. So I'm teaching my kids about black inventors. The words, I went through the same thing with my daughter. My daughter was one. I'm like, who do you girls like? They'll see wall. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, we're doing something wrong here. I need to put more people of color. So all of our books that we have, all different inventors of black people, just the women that they're learning about, and so I have to constantly keep it in front of their faces, because if I don't, they won't see it, and then they will have that concept. So that's another thing.
Right.
Very intentional with doing it.
Cool.
I know that.
Because I'll tell you, Rob, she kind of. My daughter yesterday, was it June 19th? That was Friday.
Yeah.
Right. Juneteenth. She's like, hey, Dad, this is a holiday. Can I take off from my chores and schoolwork and all that?
That's what I'm talking about. She's thinking outside the box. The impossible is possible. Words. You have planted this seed.
Exactly. So
hey guys, so I know we getting ready to run out of time here real quick. I do want to get final thoughts in, Shekinah.
Yes, we want to start with Rashard. The question is, what would your message be to those either children or adults, because we know issues can stem a long way, that are growing up without a father? They do not have a father or a father figure in their lives. What would your message be to them? A quick 30-second message to them.
Yep.
My message to them would be, you might not have an earthly father, but you do have a heavenly father.
Come on, you better.
Right? Because there is that father's love that I need you to experience, because that will help fill that void and that pain of you not having an earthly father. But then there's people like a Words Taylor, Rashard Duncan, or Rob, John Hawkins, that are there in the village to love on you and correct you and be that figure to you.
Right.
And I would make sure, and I would help them to identify who those people are, and then I would get them connected and let them know that they are worthy, they're not useless, you're still worthy, and God has a plan specifically for you.
You better. That's what.
Words. You next.
Yeah. So I would just, one thing that I focus on is defining like what you're passionate about, what do you want to do, what problem you want to solve, and then I'm going to now focus on, okay, who offers that solution for me, and I'm gonna find a man or a figure that does that. So for instance, like Movement 515, which is something that I'm heavily a part of, there were youth that were like, yo, I want to speak, I want to rap, I want to be on stages. Okay, now you may not have a father in your life, but there's a program that can father you, that can help raise you. Fathers help raise you. So I'm gonna say, find a program that will now dig into that thing, that passion that's inside of you, that will raise it up.
Right.
And so now we have all of these protests that are happening. Those are youth that we've raised up, that's been on front lines, walking and DJing and all of those things. So now you see it happening because they found something to fill that void.
Yeah.
Mr. Hawkins?
Okay. You may not. It's okay for you not to know what you want to do. It's okay for you not to know what you want to do, but it's not okay for you not to know what you don't want. Right. So I'm that kid that was raised without a father, that didn't have the father figures, and who really wasn't sure about what my life was going to end up like. Mm-hmm. But remember, I said the thing that made me different was that although I didn't know, I knew what I didn't want. I knew I didn't want a baby's mom. I wanted a wife, mm-hmm. right? I knew I didn't want to work in that kitchen that I was working in as a dishwasher, and which meant that I had to take different steps in order to accomplish something different, right? So I ended up going to college, going to the military, which wasn't the ultimate plan. The ultimate plan was to eventually become something, although I still didn't know what I wanted to be. Right. But I had to put myself in a position to be able to accomplish those things. So it's okay for you not to know what you want to do or what you want to be at this point in your life, but it's not okay for you not to know what you don't want.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Hey, well, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you. Huge shout out to all of our guests. Thank y'all for being here. We're going to go ahead on and let our guests go. And then Shekinah and I will be right back. We're going to take a 60-second break, and then Shekinah and I will be right back just to close out the show. So stick with us, and then we'll be right back. Thank you to Rashard Duncan, Words Taylor, and the Chief, Mr. John Hawkins Sr. Peace, y'all.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
And we are back to the Urban Impact Show. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Shekinah and I are here just to kind of close the loop and wrap this up. Huge shout out to our guests who were here with us, Mr. The Chief, John Hawkins Sr.,
yes.
Rashard Duncan, and Words Taylor. So huge shout out to all of them. And yeah, for people like us who didn't grow up with a father, today is a little man, like dang, and then you get a little bit of connection, and then that void is still taken away. But I just want to shout out some mentors of mine, man. Mm-hmm. Like a KO who really stepped in there. Marvin DeGier.
I know that's right.
Who man, let me tell you, Marvin is like just like his wife. It's like really on me. He's like, Rob, we need to do this, we need to do that. And huge shout out to even my friends, like who have really been even like figures in my life, like Hemi, like Cameron, like Big Will, Al Wumble, shout out to them who are still right there, and it's not like a weird ego thing, right? It's more like, hey Rob, like we got your back, man. We there to push you, and the same for me, right? I'm there to be there for them and to push them and to make sure that we do what we can.
Definitely. I think today's show is really important. It's important to take time to honor folks in your life for doing specific things. I think fathers play a really key role, and we heard that in different ways from each of the three guests. And I'm really excited to call two of them friend and another one a new friend. But just to hear what their fathers have taught them and how that's playing out in their life, and more than hear it, to see it. Yeah. To see, and even beyond clout or articles or news interviews, I see these people and I know how they're interacting with their family. Yep. You'll know a tree by its fruits. I see the fruit. Yeah. That's some good fruit. I think that's really cool. And so huge shout out to all the fathers. Happy Father's Day to you. Even if you didn't, you don't physically have children, but you are like a mentor or a voice of reason or a sounding
Godfather,
board.
uncle,
Yes, all of that. So huge shout out to y'all.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy your day. It's some nice sunshiny weather in Des Moines, Iowa.
Huge thing, real quick. So Urban Impact Show, we're looking to continue to expand. If you have a black-owned business or small-owned business, and you have T-shirts and you want us to wear them on this show, you need to shoot us a message right there on the Facebook page, Urban Impact Show, right there on the Facebook page. If you would like for us to wear your company or your small owned business T-shirt on this show, I'm the one who was usually dressing up, showing up here in suits. But now that it's hot outside, let's do the T-shirt thing. Let's definitely make it happen. And also, please don't forget to hit us up with your ideas, and we want to be engaging with you about what's going on in our community and what's happening in your neighborhoods. So that's my final word. I'm Rob Johnson.
My final word is, if you are looking for resources for young men, if you want somebody to come alongside your young man and help him grow as a person, there's the Boys to Men organization that Mr. Hawkins. I always want to say Snyder. Mr. Hawkins is a part of that. He started. That's Boys to, not the number 2, T-O, Men. You can find their, they have a Facebook group. I believe they also have a website. We'll put that in the comments for you, as well as Brother to Brother, that is present in Des Moines Public School System. And if you're looking to hear more from Rashard Duncan and Words Taylor, in addition to Ferran, who couldn't make it on the show, he's celebrating Father's Day with his family. The Male Perspective is their podcast that is available on Instagram at The Male Perspective. And just shout out to all of the fathers out there. Life doesn't come with a handbook, and we all make mistakes. People are flawed, but I think they have a really significant role to play. And so I'm excited to see my timelines buzzing with everybody talking about their fathers. I think that's a really cool thing. So kudos to you. Congratulations. Happy Father's Day. Live it up. Enjoy, because Monday is coming, and I will be the favorite host again. And I won't have to be so nice to my co-host anymore.
You watching the Urban Impact Show. We'll see y'all next week.
Have a good day.